hello everyone, and welcome to How to Buy Your First Home Like a Boss webinar. It's a webinar directed for first-time home buyers. So if your goal is to buy your first home soon, this webinar is for you. So this is the part where I talk about myself for a little bit, just to tell you why I'm uniquely qualified to host this webinar and share vital information that you need to know as a first-time home buyer. So my name is Chi Ross, and I'm a realtor with Grenville Guardian Real Estate. So I bring to real estate close to 10 years of real estate investment experience. For me, it's been more than 11 years since I bought my first home. And back then, I didn't know a lot about the home buying experience. And so that's one of the reasons why I have a special interest for first-time home buyers. I really believe when you buy your first home that being informed and knowledgeable about the process is so important, and it'll lead to less regrets later on with your decision. So I'm really happy to have you join us today. And I believe you're going to get a lot of value from this webinar. And we have a very talented and knowledgeable guest panel that you're going to appreciate learning from. They have a lot of knowledge to share with you. So I'm confident that after this webinar, you're going to be rocking your first-time home buyer experience. So grab a drink. I have mine. And let's get this started. So before we get started, I am going to introduce our speakers. And so one moment here, I'm just going to pull up my screen just to give you some information. Let's page up. So here's our title. And so these are your speakers. We have myself, we have Robin, and Robin, could you correct me please? Because I didn't check with you beforehand. Robin Goski? Goski. She's an associate lawyer with Jacques Real Estate. We have Susanna Penning, and she's an accredited mortgage professional. And so, like I said, I have 10 years of real estate investment experience. I've experienced working with a variety of home buyers, including first-time home buyers. And I've also actually wrote a book specifically targeted for millennial and first-time home buyers that's on Amazon. Robin Goski, she's an associate lawyer at Jacques Real Estate, Wills and Estates Law in Ottawa. She completed her honors Bachelor of Arts with specialization in history at the University of Ottawa, and completed her Juris Doctor at the University of Ottawa in 2012, and she was called to the bar in 2012. Really looking forward to hearing from Robin today. And we have Susanna Penning. She is an accredited mortgage professional with the Mortgage Advisors, and she has over 25 years of experience in the financial industry. And she has extensive experience working with a variety of home buyers, including first-time home buyers. So again, really looking forward to what she has to say today. So thank you so much, Robin. Thanks, Susanna, for joining us today. And could you maybe share a few words, Robin, about anything about yourself, about your experiences?
Sure. So as you mentioned, this is my 4th year as a real estate lawyer at Jacques Real Estate Closing Centers, and I absolutely love being here. And I particularly enjoy working with first-time homebuyers. It's just such an exciting time for either individuals or couples that you're buying your first house. And the more that I can help answer those questions, the better, because there is a lot of questions that we see on a regular basis that may not be obvious to the first-time homebuyers. So if I can help that with those questions, that's great.
Excellent, thanks, Robin. And Susanna, would you mind maybe talking a little about yourself, sharing some information about your experience and background?
Yeah, so I have been in the banking industry, as I said, more than 25 years. I had an extensive career with Scotiabank, many years in lending, and I've been brokering almost 10 years now. So I concur with Robin. First-time homebuyers are an exciting group to work with. They're they're new and they're fresh, and they actually have the willingness to listen and to actually receive that information and ingest it and use it properly. So really, really nice group to work with.
Perfect. And we're looking forward to hearing from your wealth of experience. So the purpose of this webinar is to share expert advice with you on how you can successfully navigate the home buying process. So as a first-time home buyer. So let's get to this. We have a list of questions to get through, and some that I find I get asked a lot, and others that you've submitted through emails and through social media. So we're going to start with questions that have been directed to myself or that I can answer as a real estate agent. And that first question is, let me just switch. That first question is, I want to buy a home. What should I do first? So when you're thinking about buying a home, it could be really, really overwhelming experience, just navigating where are you looking for a home, how much can you afford, just so many things that are in your mind. So my first and best recommendation that I can make is to first speak with a mortgage broker. And we have Susanna with us, like I mentioned, so she's going to be able to answer questions later on. And so you'll want to get pre-approved first. This is so important. You know, the mortgage pre-approval does a number of things. First, it shows that you're serious about your home search. And secondly, it helps you to be more realistic about what you can afford. And you'll find out very fast that that is quite important, so that you don't get your hopes up, or that you actually are able to find that perfect house and not be financially burdened by it. So having the right numbers can be really effective to helping you to find the right home. And another important thing about getting pre-approved first is that it actually puts you in a stronger position when it comes to negotiating, when it comes to submitting your offer. You're going to be a great candidate also when you're in a multiple offer situation. Okay, so that's my best advice. If you want to buy a home, first thing to do is to get your pre-approval in place. So the second question, and I'm just going to share my screen again for a while so that we can scroll down to the questions that we're going to cover. That way you know some of the questions that I'm going to cover. Page down. So there we go. So the second question that I find I get asked a lot is, Chi, how do I choose a real estate agent to work with? Like, there's so many of them. So my answer to that is, choose me. No, joking aside, you really, choosing your realtor is super important to the home buying process. You know, one of a realtor's primary responsibilities and duties is to protect your interests and to negotiate the best purchase price for you. So seriously speaking, you know, many people will put more effort into choosing that perfect outfit for a wedding than they will be into doing research into the best real estate agent for their needs. And you know, the same goes for a mortgage broker and a real estate lawyer as well. Some of the individuals that make up my team of professionals in the home buying process. You have to be choosy, you know, take more time than you do when you're choosing that perfect outfit for that, you know, dinner date, or that perfect pair of shoes for, you know, the event you're going to really take it seriously. And many people will say, okay, okay, what do I look for in an agent? Like, what am I supposed to look for? And so there's a couple things you want. Number one, local knowledge. You want a realtor that is knowledgeable about the area of interest, of the area that you're looking for, the particular neighborhood that you're looking for. Where are the shops? Where are the schools? Where are the different amenities that you're going to be interested on a daily basis? Second, you want a realtor who has knowledge and use of technology. So we live in a digital world. It's here to stay. So the industry isn't the same as it used to be. Yes, many people start their home buying experience online, but you need a realtor who can leverage the use of technology and the online experience and who's online savvy, who can communicate via technology very well in order to make that home buying process easier and simpler for you. So technology helps us when we're listing our properties more efficiently. And there's also many ways technology can help the first-time home buyer. So what I love about real estate today is that with my technology background, I'm able to use different forms of technology to reach the buyer and also to be able to put the buyer's criteria in mind when I'm searching for the right home for them. So that's the second thing you want to look for in a realtor. Another thing is someone who's hardworking. So you want an agent who is fully dedicated to serving your needs and who's reachable and who is really striving to make sure that your needs are met in the entire home buying experience. You also want a realtor that's creative. You want a realtor who has expertise. And this is really important. You want a realtor who you can trust, who's trustworthy and professional. So for me, those are the top things that you would look for in a realtor. Local knowledge and use of technology, hardworking, creative, expert, and trustworthy. Next question is number 3 that I get asked a lot is how much do I have to pay a realtor? So as a home buyer, you don't have to pay the buyer representative anything, okay? So nada. What in the most cases, the home seller is responsible for the commission. So just to put it simply, without making things overly complicated, your realtor is paid by the seller. So when a seller wants to sell their house, they'll go to a realtor and they will pay the realtor a commission to sell their home, so a portion of which then goes to the buyer's representative. Another question that I get asked a lot, actually, which is really, I got asked this question by email, is are there any tax benefits to owning a home? Now, this is a great question, and I think the person who messaged me with this question is already thinking ahead, which is great. So I'm just gonna list it really, really briefly, and feel free to chat with Robin about it, or Susanna may know some things as well. So here are the 4 tax benefits. So for first-time home buyers, there's actually a first-time home buyers tax credit that you can take advantage of. You have the new home rebate if you're buying a new build. You can actually claim some of your rental expenses if it happens to be a property that you're renting out, say the basement or a unit in your home. And you can also claim mortgage interest if you happen to work from a home office. So you can claim that under, I think, business use of home expenses. All right, so let's scroll down to our next question. Oops, that's Susanna's. What are some things I should focus on when searching for my first home? This is a great question, and because the more focused you are on what really matters when it comes to your home, the more likely you are to choose a home that really leaves you with no regrets. The worst thing is when you're in your home and then you're regretting and thinking about all the other homes you could have gotten. So here's what I like to tell my first-time home buyers to keep in mind when they're searching for their first home. Number 1, affordability. You need to make sure the house you choose is within your budget. This is so important. You know, a lot of people will try to push it because they want the home, for example, to satisfy 100% of what they're looking for, which sometimes means a larger purchase price. But you can get yourself into some financial trouble that way. You don't want to be, like they say, house poor. Another thing, the second thing is location. And you know, many people hear that and they're like, oh, what does that mean, location? But there's a reason. It's super important. You want a neighborhood that's relatively stable if you can. For example, like not a ton of for sale signs all over the place, or a ton of, you know, for rent signs. You want to choose a location that's going to get you better value on your home when you decide, if you decide to sell it, or when you decide to sell. Another thing is, another thing you should look for when searching for your first home is that you want open communication with your realtor, so that, you know, they're on top of, you know, the new properties that come up, and they're letting you know what's going on with the entire process. So that's my part. I'm finished with that part. Those are questions. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on social media or by email. We're going to share all of our contact information at the end of the webinar. Okay. So I'm going to turn it over now to, who am I turning it over to? I believe we're turning it over to Susanna. So Susanna, I have a few questions for you that have been submitted or that people have asked us. And let me just get back to your questions. Just give me one moment. All right, so now we're going to speak. This is where I'm happy because now I don't have to talk. I just have to ask questions. So we're going to speak with Susanna. The first question that we have for you, Susanna, is at what point in the home buying process does a first-time home buyer start looking for a mortgage broker? And I know I spoke a little bit about this, but I'd love to hear your take on this.
Well, I certainly agree, Chi. Before they contact a realtor, one of the first steps is to contact your mortgage broker. A lot of people are not familiar about why to use a mortgage professional. So I always explain it this way. If you walk in the front door of Scotiabank, they are going to give you a Scotiabank mortgage. However, using a mortgage professional opens up a whole array of choice of lenders to you. And this is the benefit of the expertise of the mortgage broker or professional that gives you an array of products and options available to you. More generally means more competitive rates, access to special deals, quick close specials, and it's more of a one-stop shopping type scenario. We take one application, we share it with all the lenders in an effort to find you the best mortgage that you need. Biggest benefit of all, of course, is this is all at no cost to you. Similar to your industry, a lot of people do question me, how much do I have to pay for your service? Well, in 95% of cases, the mortgage agent is compensated directly by the lender. So that is all behind the scenes at no cost to you. So you do get the benefit of one-stop shopping and all that choice free. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So that's a great benefit. So one of the first things I say when people are looking for a home is that everybody's situation is unique. A pre-approval really is the first step because it will tell you, we call it, the 5 C's. So a lender will look at 5 things when giving you a mortgage. The first is the property itself. They want to make sure the home is good security for the mortgage. So you're not buying, a grow up or a crack house or anything. Check that box.
Yeah.
The next thing they look at is your income. What are your sources of income? What is the stability of your income? Are you self-employed? Are you salaried? Are you commissioned? So that's a really big piece of the puzzle. The next one is your credit score. How good is your credit? Have you shown a history of being able to make your payments on time? That history of making payments on time is a future predictor of if you will make your mortgage payment on time. So big function. Next one is your down payment. Do you have a down payment? What is the source of your down payment? Are you borrowing it as a gift? The lender does need to look at that as an overall kind of picture of your capacity to buy. And then, of course, the last thing, and a lot of people have heard about this, is what we call your cash flow ratios. Based on the income you earn and the debt that you have.
Sorry, Susanna, could you say that again?
It's your cash flow ratios. What the lender looks at is based on the income you earn and the debts that you have, can you afford to make your mortgage payments? So in taking all those 5 things together and looking at whether or not you can afford to buy a home or whether you should be buying a home at this point in time, we can generally do a pre-qualification or a pre-approval to put you on the right track. Now that pre-approval is full. It gives you a rate lock-in typically for 120 days. So that rate lock-in will protect you against a rising interest rate environment. It gives you an idea of your estimated monthly payment so that you can budget accordingly and operate within your budget. As you mentioned before, it also gives you an upper ceiling of the purchase that you can afford.
Yeah.
People in this day and age, we have a term for it. We call it HGTV syndrome. A lot of clients want the granite and the stainless steel and the double bathrooms and the finished basement, but that may not necessarily be a financial reality. So that's part of the process of saying, you know, especially with all the new mortgage rules and guidelines that have been recently introduced, the government has made it a lot more difficult for people to overextend themselves. Whereas in the past, we could easily give you enough rope to hang yourself with. Yeah. That has since been reined in, and there have been recently a whole slew of government rules implemented specifically to design, you know, holding people back of overextending themselves. So yeah. I'm stressed, however, that a pre-approval is not a guarantee of a mortgage approval. It is simply a pre-qualification process. A lot can happen from the day you're pre-approved to the day you actually buy. So again, part of that process is making sure to keep on track, and we can certainly talk about that.
For sure. That's a really good point. So another question I get asked quite a bit, Susanna, is how can a mortgage expert help me before I begin shopping for a home? Just to emphasize that a little bit. I know you talked about that a bit in the first question that I asked you. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else that you can add?
Yeah, just to reiterate, part of my job is to determine what's the best mortgage for you. So we do things like review your budget. We talk about, you know, your capacity. Just because a bank will lend you money doesn't necessarily mean that you should be borrowing to that level. Things that don't factor into what the bank looks at. Big one is childcare expenses. Yeah. So even though you might be within the guidelines of the bank's cash flow ratios, you might have $1,200 of childcare expenses that really make buying a home or mortgaging to a very, very high level unrealistic. So we'll also look at the types of mortgages and what your risk tolerance is. You know, obviously there's fixed rates and there's floating rates, and not everybody is a good candidate for both. So we certainly talk about your risk tolerance and what you're looking for. Some people for the stability of a fixed rate. Some people have a little bit more risk tolerance and are willing to go into a floating rate environment. We discussed the benefits of short-term versus long-term. What are your goals? How long do you plan to own this home? Do you plan to upgrade anytime soon? Is this your forever home? Mm-hmm. Those questions will determine how long we take the term of the mortgage, and it's referred to as how long do we lock in. Yeah. We talk about payment frequencies. Should you pay monthly, semi-monthly, weekly, bi-weekly? So there's lots of things to cover to make sure you're getting into the right product and the right situation.
Perfect. So another thing that I get asked quite a bit, actually this one came in through social media, like somebody messaged me on Facebook. They said, if I have credit issues or high debt, will I ever qualify for a home? Is all hope lost?
Well, and that's a good question. So to answer that, we first need to touch on credit scores. Indicated it before. Your credit report is a very, very big part of the overall picture. How you've made your mortgage, or how you've made your debt payments in the past is a very big predictive indicator of how you're going to make your payments in the future. Your credit score is on a scale of between 400 and 900. Obviously, the higher, the better. Mm-hmm. Weak or damaged credit. In some cases, it's just a matter of not properly using your credit. And this is where I often get a lot of clients, because everything that seems to make sense does not necessarily apply in the credit score world. A lot of things are counterintuitive. So people with weak credit or lower credit scores, I can often coach them back to help better establish their credit. And just a very quick point, the thing that people get caught on the most is utilization, running credit cards right to the maximum. $5,000 limit, and you consistently owe $4,999. That is a big detriment to your credit score. Cell phone, or what we call telco contracts. Again, a lot of people don't know that.
Sorry, Susanna, can you say that again? I just want the viewers to hear that.
It's cell phone or telephone company contracts, Rogers, Fido, Bell. A lot of people are not aware that their cell phone actually reports on their credit bureau. It's the only facility that does. And people are perpetually delinquent in paying their cell phone. I have no idea why that is, but that is also an impactor in your credit score. And again, minimum payments. It seems quite obvious that if you have a payment due, you should pay it on time, even if it's $12. A lot of people don't understand that even if you miss that $12 minimum payment and pay double the next month, that does flag as a missed payment. So that missed $12 minimum payment has the same negative impact on your credit score than missing a car payment. Very, very important to be timely in your debt repayment. So to answer your question, weak credit can sometimes be rectified rather quickly with a little bit of coaching. And that's part of what I do with my clients, is to make sure, if we are dealing with a weak situation, that we can bring it back within a couple of months, or worst case scenario, maybe 12 months. But there are certainly things that you can do to rectify poor credit.
Okay, that's great. And I love the information that you shared there, just about, being able to boost your credit score in possibly a short period of time than one would expect. So thanks for sharing that. So another question that I got is, how much down payment, this is a popular question, how much down payment do I need to put down on a home? I just got this question yesterday night speaking to a client.
So it used to be a little bit easier to navigate those waters, but the short answer is it depends on the price of the house. Homes under $500,000, the minimum down payment required is 5% of the overall purchase price. So obviously, if the home is $400,000, the minimum down payment of 5% would be $20,000. So that's homes under $500,000. Homes between $500,000 and $1 million. I'm not sure how many people in the first-time buyer segment. But, homes between $500,000 and $1 million require a higher down payment. So any portion which exceeds $500,000, the down payment is 10%. So just to reiterate, the first $500,000 is 5%. Anything that exceeds $500,000 is 10%. And then, of course, homes over $1 million are not eligible for the mortgage default insurance, which I'll come back to. So homes over $1 million require a minimum of 20% down payment. So in Canada, it is the law that unless you have 20% down payment, you must require default insurance. And that default insurance does nothing to protect you, it protects the bank from you in the event that you don't make your mortgage payment. So in Canada, we have 3 providers of mortgage default insurance. Most people are familiar with CMHC, Canada Mortgage and Housing. But there are 2 other providers that provide the exact same service and premium rates, so not a lot of difference there. And that is Genworth Financial and Canada Guarantee. So all 3 mortgage default insurance providers operate here in our space, and issue that mortgage insurance, which is rolled in, or what we call capitalized into your mortgage. So it's not a pocket expense.
Yeah.
It's actually rolled into your mortgage. But I think for the benefit of this webinar, most people in the first-time home buyer segment would need to know that minimum down payment is 5% of the overall.
And actually, I just thought of, for first-time home buyers that are in large cities, let's say our neighbors, Toronto or Vancouver, like they're working at that 500,000 above purchase price.
Absolutely, yeah, which is part of the concern that government has had recently in some of the mortgage guidelines is what we call the Affordability Index. People in the hotter markets, Toronto, Vancouver, are being squeezed out of the market simply because in no reasonable environment can someone save that much down payment. So it's certainly a concern that has been brought to the forefront lately.
Great. And I guess a follow-up to that question, and again, I was talking to a client yesterday and she goes, okay, how much down payment do I need? And then she went on to, we sort of thinking about where her down payment was going to come from. And I thought, oh, she better, I hope she watches this because I'm looking forward to this answer. So where can my down payment come from? Where are you finding people's down payments are coming from?
Well, again, in a large proportion of the cases, the down payment must come from your own resources. So resources would be savings and investments. You've had your part-time job since you're 15, you're diligently putting your money away, you've been saving it up. So that tends to be the most popular source of down payment, and that would be all-encompassing of savings, GICs, and RRSPs. So one of the big benefit of being a first-time home buyer is that you can use up to $25,000 of your RSP savings towards the purchase of a home, and only in the year that you are purchasing your home. So it is a one-shot deal to take advantage of. So those are the more common sources. However, something that's becoming increasingly popular is bank of mom and dad. We're in a generation where we're going to see a large transfer of wealth from parents to their children. Again, millennials are struggling with saving for the down payment, so we're seeing a large transfer of wealth right now. So something that's very, very popular right now is what we call a gifted down payment. So you are eligible to receive a financial gift and use that financial gift towards the purchase of your home. They have limitations on it. Generally, that financial gift must be from a direct blood relative. So that's mother, father, sibling, grandparents. In some very, very rare cases, a gifted down payment can be accepted from an employer.
Okay.
Not overly popular, but certainly possible.
Okay.
In the first-time home buyer segment, we don't see this a lot, but a down payment obviously can come from the sale of a home. Would be repeat buyers. Obviously, they have and currently live in it and are selling it and use the sale proceeds to fund the down payment on the next home.
Okay.
I'll touch very slightly on this because it's not often available to first-time home buyers, but in some cases, you can actually borrow your down payment. Borrowing a down payment is a little bit riskier because it does mean that you do not have any, blood or sweat in the game.
Yeah.
Borrowing your down payment would mean you're using an alternate credit vehicle like a line of credit or personal loan to fund your down payment. So the reason I think it's not highly available is because you do have to have immaculate credit to do that.
Imagine, yes.
Your credit score needs to be over 700. And also you need to be earning at a level that you can afford both the mortgage payment and servicing the debt from the alternate source. So if you're taking $25,000 off a line of credit for a down payment, that minimum payment on the line of credit is $750 a month. So you're making a minimum payment on the line of credit and subsequently you're making a mortgage payment. So you would need to be an exceptionally high income earner to be able to do that. So not as popular, but it is certainly still an option to borrow your down payment.
Okay, thanks for giving us more information because it is a big question. I mean, many people are sort of like, what's okay? Where's it okay for me to get my down payment? What's okay? Mm-hmm. What's not okay?
Well, what's not okay is showing up to the lawyer with a bag of cash. I'm sure Robin will talk to this. I've been lending a long time. So back in the old days, you could actually go to your lawyer's office with a bag of cash on the day of closing and get keys. With proceeds of crime, money laundering, anti-terrorism since 9/11, the banks are very, very, very strict on what the source of your down payment is. So it does bring up a good point that banks will ask for thorough documentation, and some people feel like their privacy has been invaded, but the banks don't care.
Yeah.
They will ask you to document the source of your down payment. So that typically up to 3 months of bank statements. And they have a right to question any large deposits into your account and the source of those deposits. So essentially they want to make sure that you're not, selling guns out of the back of your Honda Civic. All the cash into your bank account. So it's something to be mindful of.
For sure.
And this deals a lot with cash, what we call cash in the mattress. If you do have large amounts of cash at home, you will be required to start putting that into your bank account and explaining where it came from.
Perfect. That's important. I'm just going to share with our viewers just to keep them up to date on the questions that we've covered with you. Whoops, not my questions. No. Let me go down. Yep. So we talked about at what point in the home buyer process do I start looking for a mortgage broker? We spoke about how can a mortgage expert help me before I begin shopping for a home? And if I have credit issues or high debt, will I ever qualify for a home? And then Susanna also answered the number 4 question, how much down payment do I need to put down on a home? And number 5, where can my down payment come from? So now, Susanna, if another question I get is, how do I determine the best mortgage option for me? This is where I think a lot of first-time home buyers get confused, or they totally ignore this part because it can be a little overwhelming and complicated.
Yeah, and so obviously that's a big part of what I do. With so many years of banking experience, I have a lot of financial planning and budgeting experience. So ultimately, it's my goal to get to know you a little better and know what your future plans are. With respect to starting a family, with respect to how long you're going to be staying in the city. Will there ever be a transfer, an interprovincial transfer? What things in the future could impact your mortgage? Will there be an inheritance coming? Will there be a large increase in your income? And one good example of that would be a medical student when you recently graduate, not earning tons, but that potential for future income is very, very high. So we have to put you in a mortgage where you can accelerate or pay down your mortgage faster. Conversely, if there's maternity leave coming or being planned, we would sit down and talk about that goal and the timeline of that goal, make certain that you're not overextending yourself and that we're putting the right mortgage in the right product. And I think I touched on this a little bit earlier about the term of the mortgage. It doesn't make sense to necessarily lock you into a 5-year mortgage if your plan is to own this home for 2 years to start a home and then your plan is to move out to the country. Another consideration is renovations.
Yes, good point.
Do you plan to renovate this home right away? Is this home how you want it right now, or is there something you want to change? One program that we use quite a lot with first-time home buyers is called our Purchase Plus Improvements Mortgage, which enables you to roll up to $40,000 of renovations into the mortgage at the point of purchase. So again, kind of addressing the HGTV syndrome. You may find a home in the area that you like,
yes,
schools that you like, but the kitchen is butt ugly. So there is a program where we can roll up to $40,000 into the mortgage right away so that you can do that kitchen renovation. So perhaps that may keep you in a more affordable home for longer. So generally, it's a pretty big conversation. I do a lot of intake with my clients to figure out where they've been, where they are now, and where they're going. And through that consultation process, we determine what the best mortgage and what the best features are.
Perfect. So our last question for you for today is, are there, and first-time home buyers love this question because, they're working with sometimes a limited amount of spending power. So are there any first-time home buyer credits that first-time home buyers should be aware of or take advantage of?
Well, we talked, the benefit of being a first-time home buyer is first and foremost having access to the Homebuyers plan. through the RSP. So that's kind of the bigger one that jumps right to the forefront. Because it is the only time that you can take advantage of that. There are instances where you can, especially if you have a large amount of cash or you have access to an RSP loan, you can artificially create a large tax return in the year that you're buying your home by just taking your savings and dumping it into an RSP and then generating a large tax return on that RSP contribution and then withdrawing those RSPs out of the first-time home buyer program. So in cases where that's an option for my clients, I absolutely recommend that they take advantage of that first-time home buyer credit plan. Recently introduced by our provincial government was the first-time land transfer tax rebate up to $4,000. It had previously been $2,000. So that's a nice boost for our first-time home buyers this year, is to get the instant $4,000 land transfer tax rebate. You are eligible in the year that you purchase your home to declare your closing costs on your tax return, up to, I believe, a $5,000 tax credit. So that is also an option.
That's pretty good, actually, that you can put your closing costs.
Yeah, and this isn't necessarily limited to first-time buyers, but it is a very, very, very underutilized credit. Is the Energy Star rebate credit. If you purchase a brand new home that is Energy Star rated, you are eligible for a 10% rebate of your CMHC premium. It also, and again, something that not a lot of people are aware of is it also applies to resale homes. So if you're buying a resale home that's maybe 1 or 2 years old and it had been previously Energy Star rated by the builder, again, you are entitled to a prorated rebate of your CMHC fee. So that's really something that I like to highlight to my clients because it's a nice little win to get a check after closing, you know, for $1,200. And then again, that's your Energy Star rebate. So that's something to keep an eye out for as well.
That's excellent. Thanks so much, Susanna. I think you've given a wealth of information. You've answered questions that a lot of first-time home buyers have, and you've answered them really, really well. And I really do believe, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, there's a lot to cover. And, you know, obviously we're all passionate about our jobs and our industry. We could talk forever about it. So I certainly encourage anybody who has any questions to reach out. You know, and I can't stress this enough, every situation is unique. So it does take a good amount of time to get a handle on the situation for each and every one. And once we do, we put a plan into place.
Perfect. Yeah, I think the information you've shared can definitely help someone to at least get their head on to sort of know what to expect, what to start doing now. And then exactly like you said, you have to really sit down with your broker to sort of figure out the best options for you, like you've discussed. And so thank you so much for that. And now we're going to move on to our questions for our lawyer today. So Robin's gonna, like we said, Robin's gonna be answering those for us. I'm just gonna scroll down just to introduce you to some of the questions that Robin will be answering for us. So Robin, you're on.
Perfect.
So the first question that we have for you, Robin, and I'm wondering, I wonder if you get this quite a bit, because by the time they come to you, you know, they do recognize that they need a lawyer. So question number one, why do I need a lawyer?
Actually, I do get this question quite often because in your industry, you also know that things like Grapevine and Comfrey do exist. So people do try and do a lot of this process on their own. And so a lot of people also think that they can go through the actual conveyancing process of transferring the title from the seller to themselves without a lawyer. But unfortunately, in Ontario, either when you're buying or when you're selling, you do have to have a lawyer. The only professionals who have access to the conveyancing system called Care Review is lawyers, so they have to be the ones that are actually going to transfer the property from the buyer to the seller. But more than just having to have a lawyer because it's mandatory, your lawyer is really going to act as the hub of the whole transaction. So your lawyer is going to liaise with your real estate agent, with your mortgage broker, with the seller's lawyer on the other side to deal with any issues that may arise, or just to get documents and facilitate all the documents being in one place so that when everything is at the conclusion, at the closing date, everything's in one spot, everybody's on the same page, and you can have a smooth transfer of the property. The other thing that your lawyer is going to do is make sure that the title of the property is sound. So you have proper legal access to your property. So even though you see the driveway there, you can access it. You actually on paper have legal access to this property. Are there any liens on the property that need to come off? Is there any executions against the person that is selling the property that need to be paid? All of that your lawyer is going to look into for you. So really your lawyer is going to be that hub of the wheel that's connecting all the different parts of your transaction together.
Perfect. And I think you've accurately explained to us why a first-time home buyer absolutely needs a lawyer. There's so much going on that a lawyer handles that it's actually a must. It's vital. So it's not something you want to navigate without your lawyer. So the second question that I've gotten asked, Robin, is when should I contact a lawyer during the buying process? So I know I need a lawyer, but when am I supposed to go and try and find one?
That's a great question. So you should contact your lawyer early in the process. So oftentimes you could buy, say, in January, but you're not closing until June. It could be several months in between. Still contact your lawyer early. My best suggestion is to contact the lawyer when you have a conditional sale or a conditional purchase. So even though you're still looking to get the mortgage financing in place and the home inspection, still just reach out to your lawyer. Your lawyer can also help you just wade through the documents, explain anything in the agreement that you may not understand completely, or help you with the process of what you're going to do with your lawyer. So it just gives you that kind of information as well. The other reason to contact your lawyer early is so that we're prepared. We get the information that we need up front so that when we're ready to work on the file again, that we have that information and can go smoothly without having to chase you down to get that information. So let's say that you did buy and get into a contract in January and you're closing, you're not moving until June. So we get all the information such as your dates of birth, your marital status, contact information, who you're thinking of getting as a lender. Even if that changes, that's fine. We have some information. And then that your file is going to sit there for a couple of months. We start working on it again about a month before the closing date. And so about a month before the closing date, we're going to reach out to you again, and we're going to make sure that all your information is still the same. So phone numbers haven't changed, email addresses haven't changed. If you've decided to go with a different lender because your broker has found a better rate with a different lender, that's great. Just update us and we'll be ready for those documents to come in as well. And then throughout that month, we're going to work with you intensively to get everything done on the deal that needs to get done, and then we'll sign the documents just a few days before that closing date.
Perfect. And actually, I was thinking when you were talking about at the point at which your first-time home buyer needs to get, their lawyer at a good time. I was also thinking about even new builds. When is the best time for somebody who is interested in a new build to contact their lawyer?
Right away, actually. So what they do on new build contracts is that they are always conditional, or almost always conditional, on a lawyer review for a 5-day period and to get your financing in place for 5 or 7 days. So that's a really tight window. And so you want to contact your lawyer right away, even though you may not have received that document yet that you've signed with the builder. It could take them a couple hours or a day to get it. Just contact your lawyer right away. I'm intending to use you. You might get come in right from the builder, so we can expect it. It's harder for your lawyers to work when you have only given them a couple of hours to review it because the condition is coming up at 4 p.m. on the last day. So that's harder to work with. So contact us right away. We can go through it. It's a really large document to have to go through when you're going through a builder deal. It's about 30+ pages. There's a lot of clauses. We can help you through all of those things and what it means for you as a first-time home buyer.
Perfect. Thanks, Robin, for highlighting that as well. I just thought of that because I have a couple new build clients, and I'm always encouraging them, like, go to the lawyer right away. You gotta, you gotta have them look through that paperwork and the clauses like you mentioned.
And check to make sure they're Energy Star rated.
Yes. And so the third question that we have for you, Robin, is, and this is a question that I find a lot of first-time home buyers, and I would even venture to say second and third-time home buyers, do not know the answer to. And I don't know if you'll agree with me on it, but it's, what is title insurance?
Yes, I agree completely. Right from the first-time home buyers to the ones that have bought 5 or 6 houses before and now they're like 6 houses, everybody has about title insurance. So title insurance is different than the regular home insurance that you get on a property. So the regular home insurance you're paying every month for on a yearly basis to cover things such as a fire or a flood. Title insurance you're only paying one time, as a one-time fee. It also depends on the purchase price of your house a little bit. So you're looking at probably about $400 or so for a freehold house and about $250 for a condo. And so that's your one-time fee that you pay for title insurance, and it's good for as long as you own the property. What title insurance is doing is it's protecting both the property owner and the mortgage lender for any losses that could arise from the actual ownership of the home itself. So examples of what that could be is title fraud. So let's say that the seller, unbeknownst to the buyer, is working under a power of attorney and is selling the house when they shouldn't. The buyer hasn't done anything to warrant this loss. You don't have the title to the property anymore. Title insurance to step in and help you get out of that situation. Okay. The other thing that it'll cover is any existing liens on the property. So any past mortgages, lines of credit that haven't come off the property. All of these are looked at by the lawyers as well to make sure they come off. A lot of things that I see and I work with is property tax arrears and water account arrears. So sometimes we get to the situation where you bought your house, 2 months later you find, oh, I've got a bill from the city of Ottawa for water or for property taxes from the previous owner. We will deal with that, and we will either get the previous owner to reimburse that, or if they can't be found, we will get title insurance to reimburse it. The final thing, there's many things that it does, but the other thing I want to mention is that it also makes sure that if you have any buildings or anything from your neighbors that are encroaching onto your neighbor's property, they will cover that as well. So sheds, garages, things like that.
Sorry, Robin. Sorry, Robin, could you repeat that again? I thought it was a really good point, and I couldn't hear it very well.
Of course. So what it's going to do, another thing is make sure that anything that is encroaching onto your neighbor's property will be covered as well. So a shed, a garage, something like that. The important point of that is that you can't know about it prior to the purchase. So if I'm a buyer and I'm going to do the walkthrough and somebody says, oh, it's encroaching already, and I know about it before I buy it, title insurance won't cover it. They're not going to cover anything I already know about.
Gotcha.
But if I discover it as an owner, they will cover it.
Okay. So that's great. You've highlighted some of the key importance of title insurance. Now, I know my first-time home buyers are going to say, well, when do I pay that $400? Where does it go? And how do I know that I have it?
Yeah. So what happens when you come and deal with your lawyer is going to get the title insurance as well for you. It's part of the legal fees and disbursements that your lawyer is going to charge for. So we take care of that. The other thing I'd like to mention is that when you are getting a mortgage, title insurance is mandatory. The financial institutions are going to require that you get that title insurance. It's not optional. So I know that when you are a first-time home buyer, there are a lot of costs that come and mount over time. Yeah. That's not one of them that you can cut, unfortunately. and is very beneficial for you in the end.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Robin. All right, so let's page down to the next question that, yes. Again, I find this is a question that it's not just first-time home buyers that actually don't understand what this is. It's a lot of buyers. So I think it's such an important question, Robin. What is land transfer tax and when do I pay it? And we've been hearing so much about land transfer tax, rebate this. So if you can just explain to the viewers, what is land transfer tax and when do I pay it?
Perfect. Yeah, so definitely both you, Chi-Chi, and Suzanne have already talked about land transfer tax and the rebate a bit. So land transfer tax is a tax from the provincial government anytime there is a conveyance of property. So anytime a property is bought and sold, the buyer has to pay the land transfer tax. It's not something the seller does. It is all on the buyer that pays the land transfer tax. When you are a first-time home buyer, you do get up to as of January 1st, you get up to a maximum of $4,000 off of your land transfer tax. This is an instant rebate, so it's not like the Best Buy mail-in rebate or anything like that, where you have to buy it at full price, mail in your $4,000 back. What your lawyer does is that they calculate the land transfer tax and what it's going to be, and that $4,000 is deducted right away. So let's say that the full amount of the land transfer tax would have been $4,200. You'll get the $4,000 rebate right away, and you'll only bring in $200 to your lawyer for the land transfer tax portion.
So Robin, sorry, just to make that clear, it's not a cash rebate that you're going to get. It's just an amount that's going to be off your closing costs?
Correct. So you're not going to get it in the mail as a check like 3 months later. It's only something that is taken off of your closing costs. So the amount is deducted right away. It's an instant rebate.
Perfect.
So the land transfer tax is based on the purchase price of your home. So as the purchase price of your home increases, your land transfer tax is going to increase as well. So the other thing about the rebate is that it's only available to residents of Canada. It is not available to non-residents. So if you have first-time home buyers that are not residents of Canada, they unfortunately won't qualify for the rebate.
Perfect. That's very good that you highlighted that. Excellent. And so our number 5 question that we have for Robin is, what information does my lawyer need in order to close my purchase? People want the keys. So what are the information that you need to bring to your lawyer?
Perfect. So when we get that, the first step is we need the agreement of purchase and sale. We can't work without that. So when you're working with a real estate agent, it's really easy. It's great for us. So people like Chi-Chi are going to be wonderful, and they're going to send us the agreement of purchase and sale by email or by fax. And when we get it in, we're going to review it. We're going to make sure that everything is okay, and we'll just go over any clauses that you might be confused about or anything, have any questions about. From there, we're going to contact you. We're going to make sure that we've got your dates of birth, your contact information, if you own any property beforehand, if you've already settled on a financial institution, or if you haven't, which way are you thinking of financing this purchase as well. And then as you go along, that's the initial part. As we get closer to the closing date, the other things that we're going to want to see is proof of your home insurance. So you do need to get your home insurance lined up before your closing date. And if you're buying a new build home, we also want to see what's called a carry-on certificate. So when you're going through a new build, you have an appointment with the builder's sales rep about a week or so before the closing date. And that's to walk through the home to make sure that everything has been built correctly, if there needs to be any touch-ups here and there. It's at that appointment that the builder's sales rep will give you what's called the carry-on certificate, and it shows that they have registered for carry-on and the home has passed. So
Perfect. All right, let's get back to the questions. And I think we have one more question for Robin. And there's so many questions I find around closing costs because it's such a, it's a financially tight situation sometimes for many first-time home buyers. So they're always wanting, and I find actually, Robin, that many first-time home buyers are not aware of their closing costs. And then they're scrambling in the end to find the money for closing because they have their down payment, etc. So what are other closing costs a first-time home buyer should expect?
Perfect. So on a resale, the most common closing costs that you can expect are any remaining down payment. So that's any down payment that you've told your lender that you're going to give. Let's say you're giving a $40,000 down payment. That's anything that they haven't provided less the deposit. So let's say you gave a $5,000 deposit already on the property, you've got $35,000 left. So that $35,000 is going to be part of your closing that's going to go to the lawyer. Your lawyer fees are in there, your land transfer tax is in there, any banking fees that could be on there from your bank. So if you have to get CMHC or some sort of mortgage insurance, you typically pay the PST, so the tax on that as well. So that's rolled in there. And people like Susanna are going to explain how the banking part and the banking fees and what kind of banking fees you can expect on that. But that is when you can expect to pay it, is on the closing. The other thing that you will have is a property tax adjustment. So what we do with the property taxes, let's say you're buying in March. The seller is going to be responsible for the property taxes from January until March. You are now starting the property taxes from March until the end of the year. But let's say that the seller has paid their property taxes all the way up till June. So they've got too many months that they have paid for. So we're going to reimburse the seller right on the closing date. And so that everybody is paying the proper property taxes for their portion of the year. And that's going to be one of the adjustments on closing.
And
typical.
And Robin, you're the one that's going to be doing all that adjustment, like calculation, correct?
Yes, we do that between the two lawyers, and we make sure that the parties are getting the proper adjustments.
Perfect.
When you're buying a condo, we also adjust for the common elements fee, so the monthly fee that you pay. If you're buying halfway through the month, the seller will have already paid for the full month. So the buyer will credit the seller back for the couple of weeks that the new owner is going to own the home. On a new build, then you have the builder adjustments as well. So your carry-on fee. So your carry-on fee is going to be included in those closing costs as well.
Perfect.
And sometimes with the builders, they have a hot water tank rental, the installation of the hot water tank, and then any kind of utility setup as well. Sometimes that's in there. So anything that's listed in that big, large agreement from the builder, anything that's an adjustment will be right at the closing date and be part of your closing costs.
Perfect. That's awesome. This is such great information for first-time home buyers, just having a heads up as to what they can expect for their closing costs. So thank you so much, Robin, for taking the time to answer those questions. And
you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for being here with us today as well.
Great. I just wanted to say that when you're dealing with a lawyer and your purchase is 6 or 8 months down the road, don't be afraid to contact your lawyer if you have any questions throughout the process. You're going to be talking to your real estate agent. You're going to be talking to your mortgage broker quite often throughout the process. If any questions come up that you think you want to discuss with your lawyer, don't wait until a month beforehand. You can always contact us by phone, by email, and just get those questions resolved.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Robin, because my next slide was pretty much all our contact information. And so I just wanted to thank, I'm just going to bring, just 1 second. I'm just going to make sure Susanna is with us. Hi, Susanna.
Hi.
You're still with us, right? So I was just explaining to everyone that they can definitely contact myself, yourself, Susanna, or Robin. And Robin was just mentioning, don't be afraid to contact the lawyer for any questions. You'll be talking to Susanna as your mortgage broker, myself as the agent. Don't be afraid to call Robin as well, and I'll be sharing her contact information. And just so we can conclude, I just wanted to thank you so much, Robin and Susanna, for joining me today, and actually for being so generous in sharing your expertise. Like, it's really appreciated. I'm really confident that first-time home buyers are gonna find this webinar really useful, meaningful, and beneficial for their home buying process. So like we said, please feel free to reach out to any of us if you have questions. Like even Susanna mentioned it today, like, we love what we do, we're passionate about it, so we're more than happy to help you navigate that home buying process successfully, and I like to also say happily. So thanks for joining us with this webinar. We look forward to having you in future webinars, and I'm just going to share with you our contact information. That's my contact information. You can contact me by email, website, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And Susanna, you can contact her via email, her cell, her website, Facebook, and I'll just, and Robin as well. Her telephone number is there, her email, her website, and on Facebook as well. Just gonna see if I can scroll up back to Susanna, because that was a bit quick. So here's Susanna's information again, so that you can contact her. Really easy to reach Susanna, really easy to communicate with her, which is great. And then here's Robin's information again, and she's also quick with the email, or contact her on the phone, or even visit the website as well. Lots of great information on their website and on Facebook as well. And so we just want to thank everyone for participating in this webinar. Again, thank you to my guests. Really appreciate having you guys as well. Did you guys have anything else to say just to end things?
No, just to reiterate that there's never a silly question. So both myself and I have a full-time assistant, Carrie Lynn, we endeavor to always get back to you always the same day. So whether it's a phone call or an email. In fact, clients are often saying how quickly we respond. So we want to make sure we're breeding a culture where they feel very comfortable reaching out. Like I said, no question is too silly, and if it's on your, it's important to ask. So,
exactly. Well, thanks so much, Susanna. Robin, did you have anything else to add?
Just that this is supposed to be a comfortable, exciting process for first-time home buyers. This is not supposed to be scary or fearful or drive anxiety or anything like that. So perhaps the professionals that we have, like the real estate agents, the mortgage brokers, lawyers, we're all here to help you have an enjoyable process. So work with us, give us your questions so that we can make this a better process for you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, guys. Bye, everyone.